How's it going? Happy Sunday. Oh, my little tufts behind my ears. There we go. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to get on in. How's everybody doing today? What a weekend. It's been very, very busy. Let me just pop out the chat. Oh, wait a minute. Pop out the chat. Here we go. Show chat. Pop out. Ouch. Pop out the chat. Okay, here we go. So before I say hi to everybody, I'm going to give everybody a chance to get in. And yes, I'm going to go behind the fan because I haven't been able to sit down much today. So I'm going to give it, if you want me to say hello, then please say hello. Whoops. Say hello in the chat so that I can say hi back. It was chicken day. Hang on. Very busy weekend. Very, very, very busy weekend. If you're just coming in, come in and say hello so that I can say hi back. I'm just waiting for everybody to get in while I put her behind my fan. All right. So, let me start by saying hi to everybody. For those who want to be said hello to, hello, aloha, Seashell, and mahalo for being here always. You're always here. Chandy Shaw, Denoof, FYI, Kathy Pink, KB Canner, Linda Bop, we've been worried about you. We haven't seen you for a couple of days. Lisa Allen, Liz Prof. Let me just, oh no, it's not going to work. Okay. Liz Prof, Potato Head. Hey, Rosie Slade, Sherry Leach. Hi, darling. You're going home Monday? Tina Elliott, TJ and GA, and Yellow Bird up high in banana tree. I haven't seen you in a while. So let me put this on live chat. Hey, Freaky Geek and Amir. Okay, so far so good. Does that mean that you're doing better and that they're letting you go home because of that? So, been a really busy weekend. I did a tea break for for our half acre homestead for tomorrow. Talking about edible weeds and showing snips, and it's basically a tea break film. Hi, Joanne. Lori, hello. Well, thank you, Yellow Bird. I have a yellow bird on my arm right there. It represents my father. Anyway, yesterday we went to Kingston and it was amazing. Bubba did his first try at crawling. He got one knee and one hand forward. Like right now he's just learning to get up on his hands and knees and rock. But he put one knee and one hand forward, and who was he crawling to? His great-grandmother, Nan. And, because Nan and Karen came up to Kingston from Port Hope, and we came down to Kingston from Quebec. So we all met at Arthur and Mel's, and we had a lovely time. It was wonderful. Hi, Nana. Hi, Sherry. How are you, darling? How you feeling today? So, hi, Angie. Good, you made it. Did Angie make it? Yes, because I sent her it through the phone. Right. So we left here. We got up at 6. We left here at 7, and we were home by 6:30 last night. So it was like 2.5, 3-hour drives because Howie has a drag strip lead foot. And it was awesome. It was just enough for all of us. It was enough for all of us. Like poor little Bubba he's got 2 teeth. These 2 teeth come through. He didn't have a nap before we got there, so he was supposed to be cranky. But he's got twinkly eyes. He's got the family, my father's side of the family's twinkle, right? My dad had the twinkle, only his eyes were brown, right? My grandfather had the twinkle, only his eyes were watery blue. But Bubba has the same color eyes as me and Arthur, which is a dark kind of gray blue. But just before we left, like we had a lovely lunch, we had a lovely visit, and Bubba was passed around like a bouquet of flowers. And every time, and then I'd need a rest and I'd hand him to somebody else. And then about 20 minutes later, I'd say, okay, give him back. And I'll tell you something. I chewed on the arches of his feet like this. And he giggled, which was the singing of angels. I'm telling you, when you make your baby, like, remember, I haven't seen or held him since he was a month old or 2 months old, right? He's going to be 6 months old in a couple of weeks. So the music to a grandparent's ears, like singing of angels, is the giggles you can get from your grandbaby. And I tweaked above his knees, those muscles that tickle, and I tweaked his fat. Oh, poor baby's got Grandy's thighs. Doesn't matter if I grew up, even when I was thin, I had these thighs that my father used to call them riding breeches. But I tickle in his thighs and those two little spots just above his bum, and you go like that. And you rub them, and they laugh. And I yum, 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 yum. Oh, I just had a love fest with my grandbaby. And I'm telling you, every time, didn't matter who was holding him, when his eyes met mine across the room, he had that little twinkle, you know. He's looking at me like, yeah, I'm making sure you're still here, man. I'm making sure you're still here, Granny. Feeling okay, just trying to realize I may not walk again. Yippee skippy. Never say never. You'll get there. You'll get there, Sherry. I have absolute faith in God and you that eventually you're going to be at least starting out with a stationary walker. I see you walking again soon. No, Howie has another hood that he bought yesterday for $50, and he's going to do an entire video on how he's going to make a new hood, because he discovered that the engine got more oxygen when there was no hood on it. So he's putting a new hood on, and I think he's going to cut out a generous section of the center and like maybe build a wire cage around it so that like debris doesn't get in. But he's thinking that was the lucky accident, the happy accident that made him hit his 100 mile an hour. Oh, my spending time with my grandbaby was magic. It was magic. You know, there was giggles, and he creeps, man. He creeps all over the place. But he's now getting up on his hands and knees and rocking, and he did his first crawling step towards Nan. And we all went, "Wow, yeah," because Mel and I we've been, you know, 3-4 times a week, we've been FaceTiming with him, and he's on the floor and he's rolling and he's creeping and that. But just lately he's been getting up and rocking. So I've been kept really well informed with my grandbaby. Hi, Black Rock. How you doing? Laura Higgins, Chandy, Amir. So you have 5 grandbabies? Oh, well, I'm telling you. But today, like, we got home and we watched a bit of TV, and then we were like in bed. We were in bed by like 9:30 last night. We were so tired. And we knew what was coming today. What was coming today is how we had to whippersnip, right? Get the weeds all cut back. And they had to whippersnip my garden. I had to do some weeding today, and we had to dispatch chickens today. Now, there is no dispatching chicken video on YouTube at all. Well, not on YouTube. This was not a video for the simple reason is YouTube's gotten really funny about, when you kill animals on thing. These were three. I only got three, but these were three of the biggest chickens I have ever raised. These suckers have to be 10 pounds or close to it. So one, the laying hens had been pecking, and I've still got 4 laying hens. They've been pecking at, they have been bullying the white birds. I've lost 2 of the birds to bullying. Don't ever say you can't die from bullying, because you can. And this one of them was getting, they bullied the hens, not the males, right? And that pissed me off because the hens are all breast meat. But anyway, I've got 2 8 to 10 pounders in the freezer whole. And the other one, I cut the wings off because they had been, one had a hematoma and one had been pecked at. And so I just took the legs off of that. Like no legs you'll find in a bloody grocery store. I'm not kidding. And they went in the freezer. 2 whole chickens went in the freezer. And I've got this massive chicken breast and rib cage that I'm going to can tomorrow. I'm going to can the meat from the breast. And then I'm going to make chicken soup with the carcass for the next day. So tomorrow is a canning video. Well, no, tomorrow isn't a canning video, but I am filming a canning video for our half-acre homestead tomorrow. It is the pecking order. That's right. And because those big birds, all they want to do is eat, right? The other one, but the laying hens are all females too, right? And they don't want anything. They don't want the other hens. They didn't bother the roosters. It was just the chickens they didn't want. They bullied them to death, except for one. So tomorrow I'm canning chicken. I stink of bleach. I'm canning chicken tomorrow, so that'll be a video on our half-acre homestead one day this week. Hey, International Cat, Robin Rose, Laura Higgins. So I'm telling you, I could barely lift up. And this was after it was dispatched and everything, and cleaned. I could barely lift the one up with one hand to get it in the bag. Could barely lift it with one hand. That had to be 10 pounds, that one. Howie took a picture of me. I'm holding this turkey, and I was telling Arthur that we are not going to be at the racetrack this year for Thanksgiving. Usually we have Thanksgiving at the Spooktacular, right? Well, we're not doing the Spooktacular this year. So I said to Arthur, we can have Thanksgiving this year at our house. I said, I even have a butterball. He said, I can't have butterball. For some reason, butterball turkeys, there's got to be gluten or something in them. So I got Howie to take a picture of this 10-pound chicken, and it's as big as my turkey, right? It's as big as a small turkey. And so I'm going to send that to Arthur saying, well, you'll eat this. Because it's my chicken. I'm contemplating raising chickens for eggs. I live in Louisiana where it is hot and humid the majority of the year. What breeds would you recommend? Well, I'm from Canada, but always if you want to get them and raise them from chicks, I would get barred Plymouth Rock because you'll always get a couple of roosters in there. And so by the time they're grown up, to figure out which ones you want, you can separate out the roosters because they're a decent meat bird. They're not huge like these genetically modified monsters I cleaned today. But I like barred Plymouth Rock. But if you just want eggs and you don't want birds for anything other than scrawny birds for soup later on, you can buy there is a red hen. I don't know what the name is. Maybe someone else will say. I'm going to save the butterball for Christmas. The butter is mixed with wheat and injected into butterballs. Thank you, Sherry. I'll tell my son that. We had a horrible blizzard and all of my friends' chickens had to be shut up for days on end. They killed each other. When chickens get bored, they get to be nasty killers. No, if they're getting enough protein in their diet and enough water, they won't kill each other. Except I mixed two different kinds of chickens. So out there right now, all I have is two barred rocks and two black Sussex. Red sex links. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Hi, Barbara. Andrew from Yorkshire. Hello. Rhode Island Reds can be pretty aggressive, but red sex links, they're one of the highest production brown egg layers in the market. They don't take a lot of feed because they're a fairly small bird, but they put out a prodigious amount of eggs. I just like the barred rocks because they'll be good soup afterwards. It all depends on what you like. Different breeds lay different color eggs. Well, if you want to get fancy about it, but she's just talking about a good egg. I hope you're asking that you want a good production egg layer that, like anything, anything fancier may not be able to do in the heat and the humidity, right? So, but yeah, red sex links are the best for layers if that's all you want them for. She ended up freezing her chicken scraps into a solid block and gave... Okay, wait a minute. I'm missing something here. We had they killed each other. When the chickens get bored, she ended up freezing her chicken scraps into a solid block and gave that in addition to regular food and water and able to save many of her flock. Yes. Yes. Okay, yeah, then you want the red sex link, right? Well, we've been getting some rain and it's clouded over and we're really lucky to be getting rain. But to keep birds from getting bored, hang cabbage leaves for them to peck at. They need to be kept busy. Or you can just put a whole cabbage on a spike. Like I'm going to get Howie to make me one. A block, like a 4, that you can stick with a spike coming through it. And you stick a quarter of cow. I think I'll do that because my laying hens are going to be raised in the porch. Well, they're raised outside right now in the greenhouse, but they're going to spend the winter in the porch. And they're going to have timed lights, but their floor is going to be covered in limestone grit, which I'll be able to scoop because chickens don't pee. Everything comes out in one glop, and then you can just scoop it like cat litter. But don't use cat litter if you're doing birds in an enclosed space and you want to give them grit. Do not put cat litter on the floor. It will turn into cement in their crops and kill them. We gave ours lots of apples too. There you go. You're welcome, Chandy. Hi. We used sand in our pens. Well, I've got the Mustang saddlery over here, who I've been buying my feed from. She gets the great big bags of limestone grit, and then she breaks them up into like $5 bags. So I only need like 2 of them, right? Because someone said, won't that smell? Not if you control the fecal matter that they produce. So it's basically every day you go out, you water them. You give them water. You give them it's constantly, but you check their water, you check their food, you scoop their poop out there into the ravine. And Bob's your uncle, you've got a clean pen. Wouldn't that be hard of their feet? Might cause bumblefoot. No. They'll have a roost and a nesting box as well. So no, I don't think it's going to hurt their feet. And there's also someone else on YouTube who did it. I think she's on YouTube or on TikTok or on whatever, but she did it and it worked great. And her pen was an indoor laying pen, but it was inside a building outside. Mine's going to be in my porch. I'm telling you, chicken's that big. Like I'm holding it up by the wings and it's really heavy. And Howie took a picture. He said, do you want to smile for the next one? I said, why? And he goes, because you look like you're struggling. I said, I am. Take the bloody picture. No. Hey, Kadeen. How are you? Maybe good in compost too. Well, like I said, the ravine is just something we're building up. And since we couldn't have a fire today to scald our chickens to pluck them, like Howie does the killing and the plucking, and I do the evisceration and the freezing and the cleaning and the freezing. We couldn't have a fire because Canada's been on fire, right? So Howie got out my propane burner on legs, and he did it that way. And he said, well, what am I going to do with the guts? We can't light a fire, like before we started that. I said, use the propane burner. I said, then go over to a corner of the woods there, dig a deep hole, and put all the feather. And, you know, when I cleaned them out, I laid them on newspaper and put them in a cardboard box, all the guts and stuff. And then, and Howie got all the feathers and stuff. And I said, just dig a deep hole and bury him. So, but away over there by the woods. You know what I mean? Because we couldn't have a fire. How is your mom, Linda? Hey, clever you, Simply Jessica, Wild Fox Wildcraft. My goodness, busy place today. Cindy Shea. So, I'm exhausted, and we are not eating chicken for supper tonight. But I'm going to do a chicken and rice video sometime soon for our half-acre homestead, just to show you the massive legs that was on this hen. That I you know, they're huge. They're huge. Is it hard to defeat her then? I'm not sure. Hang on a second. What are we talking about? Oh, defeather? No. I mean, I'll have some little quills in there a little bit. I'll just pick them out later. But I mean, I got Howie. This is the whole point, is you have to kill them quick. They don't give them any time to think about what's happening. You have to kill them quick and as painless as possible. And then you scald them, not in boiling water or you'll cook the skin, but in water that's just hot enough that it's steaming. Like that it's got rolling steam a little bit, but not boiling. And then you take that off the fire and you dunk your chickens and then you start plucking. And that relaxes the skin to let the feathers out. If you use an axe and you cut the head off a chicken and the axe isn't sharp enough and you have to take a second swing, their skin shrinks around the feathers and they're a bitch to pluck. So, well, that's the pin feathers, right? Like you can dry pluck a chicken, but then they have these hairs hanging off them. The first time I did it, I didn't know you're supposed to scald them. They have hairs hanging off them, and you can take a piece of newspaper and light it on fire and just burn those pin feathers off. You know what I mean? Dispatched a rooster yesterday. He chased my wife one too many times. Tasted good, but was a little tough. Well, you should stew roosters. You know, you should stew them because they are tough. But I'll tell you, Howie has slapped his share of roosters on the table. I remember the last one not the last one. I've learned, now here it is, folks. I have learned, do not give your roosters violent names. I had one named Diablo. He was a Rhode Island Red. Bit right through the webbing of my hand with his beak. He died almost instantly. I had a friend, Axel was over. Excuse me. The good son, Alex. And I just grabbed that rooster by his feet and I laid his neck on the ground and I put a rake handle over him and I stepped on either side. Now I clicked like that. And Alex is looking at me going, holy shit, you don't mess around. I said, no. They, you know, once they feel they got the better of you, roosters, you'll never be safe from them. Right? I've had a lot of roosters that I really liked. But then I had one I named Diablo. He was beautiful. No, Michael. Diablo was the Rhode Island Red. Michael was this big, beautiful white Chanticleer. And he was gorgeous. But I named him Michael for the archangel of battle. So I went out one day and he hit me, and he was really loud too. And who praying for? She now has internal bleeding. They have to do that scope test down her throat to determine where and why. I was shocked yesterday when I went in her room and saw it. They were giving her blood. Oh my God, Linda. Well, we'll remember to always keep her in our prayers. Excuse me. So Michael was extremely loud. Like, you go out in the barn, and when he crowed in the winter, but he got really protective over the hens once they were shut in. So I went in one day to feed them, and he come up at me with his spurs, and he was a good 8 pounds, and he whacked into my thigh, and he whacked into my thigh again, and he whacked into my thigh. When I finally got out of the coop, I went, that rooster's got to go, right? And how he said, why? And I showed him my leg, and I was black and blue almost immediately down my leg, and there were spur marks, and I was bleeding. He said, holy crap, that bird did that? I said, yes, right? Because Howie had never seen, I've had attacks before, but only when he wasn't around, right? So, and I've dealt with them. Boom, right? But I'll tell you something. The next day, before I went to feed, and he said, don't feed. He said, I'm going to feed and water the chickens for you. You can collect the eggs later. And I said, oh, okay. About 2 hours later, he comes in with a plucked rooster, drops him on the table and said, there, he ain't so effing tough now. It's my man. He took that rooster and again, we took another rooster named Blue from Steffi, and she said it was getting aggressive. And I said, well, we'll take it and we'll see. And this one got aggressive. Again, ain't so tough now, when that thing left me black and blue. And I mean, the bruises were like the size of the bird. Yeah, they can be relentless. Right? Hi, Trish. Don't you worry, Linda. Whatever happens, God has it in hand. God has it in hand, and there's always a good reason for stuff, even if we can't see it. Sometimes horrible things happen, and we don't understand why. But there's always a reason, right? So, Traces, hey! How are the rooster slayers? Well, I'm telling you, he said he struggled with these birds, these 2 roosters. They were huge. But absolutely. And so it's been a really busy day, and I stink of bleach because, of course, I laid newspaper in the one sink, and then I cut, the feed off, and I eviscerated it and took the crop out and all that. And then I would rinse it and clean it in the other sink. And then that newspaper would go in the box, and then I would do the next one. I only did 3. We only have 3, but I have 4 laying hens. So I know they put 3 in a cage, but I don't know if I can put 4 in my cabinet. It might be a little too much. So we'll see. But that's coming up soon. I'm going to be making that indoor chicken coop soon. Not indoor in my house, in the porch. Right? So, all right, I'm going to go behind the fan for a minute, guys, because I'm in a lot of pain. And I just need to. And I have been off. This is only my 2nd cup of tea. I haven't even had toast yet today. Just been going, right? Got up. We did some weeding. I did garden weeding before I even had a cup of tea. And then I had my cup of tea, and I did chickens. I got a filling fixed in my molar last week, and the whole thing fell out 3 days later. Any dentists in here? This is the first time that's ever happened to me. You go back to the dentist, and you say, I want my money back. And you fix this. Because they just want reasons to bill your insurance over and over again. I had that once. I had this tooth back here, which is now gone, I had a cavity when I was 13 in there, and they put the metal fillings in, right? The metal filling in. And then when I was in my 30s, no, not when I was in my 30s, when I had to have that tooth drilled out. And what do they call it? My friend used to call it tooth sex. Where they hollow out the tooth and go all the way down and kill the root and everything, and then they fill it. And root canal. I had root canal on that tooth. And just when the pain was stopping after about 4 weeks, I was eating yogurt. I'm sure everyone's heard this story. I was eating yogurt. We were all watching TV, and I was eating a yogurt. And I felt like porcelain in my, a shard of porcelain in my mouth. And I went, everybody stop. There's glass in the yogurt. Like nobody eat the yogurt. And then I pulled it out, and it was a piece of my tooth. The whole tooth from the root canal had shattered because A, he never told me it needed to be capped, and B, he never told me not to chew on it. But it broke while I was eating yogurt. And I went back, and they were double billing me. They had billed the insurance company, and they sent me a bill for over $600. It's a true story. True story. So I phoned the dentist's office and said, how is this possible that I've been in pain for weeks? He's told me he's fixed the tooth, told me it was completely covered. The tooth shatters in weeks. And yet I get a bill for $600 some. She said, well, this is for this and this. And I said, no. I was told it was completely covered. I'm not paying that bill because the tooth no longer exists. Right? I had to have that tooth pulled out later on. Right? I said, that tooth is no longer useful and it's not fixable. So I'm not paying this bill because it was supposed to be covered. And then they'll take you to small claims court. I said, go ahead, do it. Do it. Right? Now, the dentist office was in the same building as the bank, which had a flat roof. And about a week later, we had a rainstorm, and I guess one of the drains on the roof got blocked. I didn't touch it. I couldn't even climb that high. There was no ladder, nothing, so don't go there. But the roof on the entire building collapsed in the middle of the night. The bank, the dentist's office, full of water. Don't cheat me. How he went to the dentist? A couple of years ago. We have to go to the dentist soon, but we're getting a new one. Because he had a tooth that was broken and infected. It was broken and infected and had to be pulled. So he went to the local dentist. I'm not saying names and I'm not saying where, but he went to a local dentist. And they dug his tooth out. Okay? Now, when you have a tooth extracted, even if, they don't extract them if they're overly infected, but what's a great find? Tell me in a minute. It was on this side of his mouth. And usually when you have a tooth extracted, especially one that's been painful, right? After about 3 days, things start to heal up. You start to feel like, oh God, yes, I'm gonna survive, right? Because it's an extraction, not Howie. A week later, and he's eating 2 Advil and 2 Tylenol every 6 hours. It's amazing he didn't get his liver poisoned, right? Isn't it weird how a toothaches usually occur on Friday afternoon of a holiday weekend? Yeah, really, eh? So and I'm calling him a wimp. I'm going, oh, come on, Howie. It's been 2 weeks. It should be healed by now. And he goes, Bev, look. And he looked and he went like this and his gum was all puffed up. And then about an hour later, he goes, come here. I went, what? And he went like this and he pulled and there was a shard of bone, jawbone, a shard like that big, shard of bone. And I went, oh, well, it'll heal now. I said, no wonder it wouldn't heal. It's, And then it'd start to heal and it'd start to feel better. Boom, another shard. So he ended up pulling like 6 shards over 6 weeks. It took 6 weeks for all these shards of tooth and bone to come out so his mouth could heal. I phoned that dentist. I said, what kind of butchery is this? They said, what are you talking about? Who's this? I said, this is Howard Foley's wife. And you extracted a broken tooth out of his mouth 6 weeks ago. And they said, yeah. I said, it's been infected and popping shards of tooth and bone for 6 weeks. It hasn't been able to heal. And they went, well, that's sometimes. I said, no, that does not happen. If it was going to be that bad of a job, he should have had oral surgery, not been hammered at and yanked at until there was chips of bone coming out of his mouth. Took him 6 weeks to friggin' heal. We'll never go to that dentist again. Poor baby. I was calling him a wimp until I started seeing, the gum and you'd push and it'd go pop, another piece of gum. Okay, but that went on for weeks. It would start to heal. And it was always painful because there were shards all grinding around in there. It was really awful. My poor Howard's been through a few things. Allergic to nut molds. Oh my God, don't even get me started on that one. He was, I had to take him to the hospital on Christmas Eve. And because he was body, head to toe, hives this big red hive. So I laid him on the pull-out couch face down and I covered him in calamine lotion because I took him to the hospital on Christmas Eve. And they gave him whatever it was that they gave him. I think it was Ativan. I don't know what it was they gave him. But I brought him home because his whole groin, like he came home from work on Christmas Eve because it got early off at noon. And he dropped his pants in the middle of the kitchen. This was a long time ago, pre-Briar. So it's over 30 years ago. It was our second Christmas. Dropped his pants in the kitchen and said, because he had been going to work covered in hives. But his whole groin, the whole groin, where his thigh meets, the rest of him in his thrupney bits, was swollen with hives. Right down halfway to his knees and halfway up his belly. I said, no, we're going to the fucking hospital. So we're going to the hospital. That's it. So I took him to the hospital and they said, well, you're having an allergic reaction. Could it be, we had gotten a kitten. We had a real tree because the year before we didn't have a real tree. So we had to get rid of the tree, get rid of the cat, and it was still going on. Here it was, the walnuts. You know how you buy mixed nuts in the shell and you crack them? Christmas time, you have a bowl of nuts. Not in our house anymore. Because Howie loved the walnuts, but he was breaking out. So when we came home from the hospital, I said, that's it. You're just going to give him some pills. It was everywhere. I said, you're going to get, what if his throat closes? Well, then you bring him back to the hospital. Right? So we got him home and I laid him out. I got pictures somewhere. I won't embarrass him though. Laid him out face down on the pull-out couch and I covered him in calamine lotion. And then I wrapped him in a sheet. I took a picture of him covered in calamine lotion and you could see the big red welts through the calamine lotion all over his body. And he said, what do you want to take a picture of me like this for? I said, because if you die, I'm suing the hospital. Died on Christmas Eve. You know what I mean? I'm finally out of my boot for the shattered ankle. Yay! And able to get some gardening done. Well, just take it easy, okay? Yes, it was bad. Went to the second dentist. He was the one to save me. He provided all the proof to get bad dentists charged. So, well, we just muscled through it. I mean, Howie should have went to another dentist, and I'd never even thought about that. But because my teeth, like, I hate to do this to you folks, but look at this tooth. Right? That tooth is the worst. This one and this one, they're all loose because I have bone loss. I'm suffering bone loss because I was poisoned by lead when I was a kid. Right? And me and my brother Bob. And so my brother Bob is only 2 years older than me, and he has no teeth at all. He had to have them, what was left of them, pulled. So we're going to have to go to a dentist too, because Howie's got another tooth that's just got to be dealt with and he has a bad heart. Not a bad heart. He has a great heart. But he, ear infections and tooth infections and sinus infections and stuff, and throat infections, you don't mess with because it's all really close to your heart, right? I'm a dentist in a little shop of horrors. Plates and screws, I have most of my mobility back. Well, please just be more careful. Well, I don't smoke cigarettes, Tina. I don't smoke cigarettes. I gave up cigarettes. Wow. I don't know, 20 years ago, but I had a slip when I had my car accident back in 2007. And I had a couple of cigarettes, and I had a couple of drags and a cigarette here and there for a week after the accident. And then I confessed to Howie and stopped smoking again. My coworker couldn't bend her ankle. I'm just saying, just be careful. Okay? Just be careful. Overdoing it on that bone. I had a friend recently, last Christmas, who was in a wheelchair for 3 months because the plates and screws from an old ankle injury were coming through her skin, and she had to have it reoperated on. So please allow it to heal properly. Had to see a back doctor, told me I had bulging discs. Doctor wrote PT orders, and the PT guy pushed on my back and fractured my back. No way. I mean, seriously, dude. We've come full circle, right? Back in the day, people, 100 years ago, people said, dude, 100 years ago, but you don't go to the hospital unless you're dying. They experiment on you, and people die in there, right? You don't have to get babies at home, right?
Yep.
Yo, cheese and crackers, old man.
I'm just going to have a couple dogs. I got a couple left over. That's all right?
You got any extra?
No.
Okay, I'll have mac and tomatoes then. Okay, and we're going to watch TV in a little bit.
Whenever you're ready.
Howie,
I'm just hungry.
I got those birds. When I went to lift that big bugger up and put it in the bag, I could barely lift it with one hand.
I know.
Well, then he's over 10 pounds because that's not a bag of potatoes.
Yeah, you'd be pretty close to 10.
I got the two big ones in the freezer. I got 2 legs the size of velociraptors in the fridge freezer, and then I took the breast and the rib cage, and I'm going to be canning chicken tomorrow and making broth and canning broth. So, okay, go eat, maybe. I just made you lunch a couple hours ago. Well, I know. Go eat your hot dogs then. All right, darling. Go eat. You worked hard today. Whippersnipped all that stuff. Wrestling velociraptors. I know. Enjoy your hot dogs, darling. Because I ain't cooking chicken tonight. I know you didn't think I would. Everyone says, hi, Howie. They want videos of what you're going to do to your car hood. Okay. A very successful weekend. I sold over 80 jams. Oh, that's awesome. 5-hour surgery. They lost me and brought me back. What? Whoa. What are we talking about here, Amir? Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Well, he's not just Grampus anymore. He's also Granddad. Because we discovered that, Arthur's bio dad and his wife are Mima and Peepaw. And Mel's mom and stepdad are Granny and Grandpa. And I'm Grandy, and Howie's Grampus or Granddad, because my dad was Granddad. So there's no granddads, so Howie gets the title. Hot child in the city. Well, that's awesome. It is really good. Sorry, guys. It's been a really busy weekend for me. Post and core. Not sure. Hi, Helen. How are you? So yeah, I'll be posting a picture of the size of that chicken, the one chicken. I'm holding it by the wings like this. I sold 100 cotton candies to happy customers on Friday. My city has asked me to be their vendor for cotton candy this summer. That's awesome. See, I don't know if I could ever do that, because here you have to go through all this stuff to serve food. You have to have licenses. You have to be able to speak French. I can't do any of that stuff here. There was a Christmas market here one year down in Wakefield, and I was going to sell my Christmas cookies, my snowballs and my whipped shortbread and my brick shortbread. And my cousin was going to sell fire starters, and we were going to have crocks of apple cider with cinnamon in it and a coffee maker. We're going to have like hot chocolate and cider and coffee. And I was told that I had to have a food vendor's license to sell cookies. Now, you can do that at a bake sale at a school, but you can't do it at a market in the middle of the town square. Where's the logic of that? So I stopped doing it. I may actually put an ad out on Facebook, local Facebook, saying, anybody want my snowballs? Let me know. Anybody want packages of snowball cookies for Christmas? Let me know. Call me. Message me. Right? Cotton candy while we talk about dentists. Well, all it is spun sugar, right? And all of my tips are being donated to programs for kids in my community. I'm so excited. Cotton candy is basically a zero-risk food, so they didn't ask me to have those permits. Well, yeah, Linda, they want their money. I'm going to have to look into that. You know what else I'd really like to do? Is the ice creams. You know how they do? They take fruit and they pour it on this frozen thing, this freezer thing, and they go, and then they pour cream on it and go, and they scrape it, and then they cut it up, into little squares, and they put a little cup and give you a little spoon with it or a fork with it. I'd love to be able to try that. It's not because of taxes. It's Quebec. Quebec has some of the weirdest laws in the country. They pride themselves on being different. And I wouldn't be able to run that if I couldn't speak French or didn't have somebody who spoke French. New language laws. I know. Isn't that wonderful, Linda? That's a resale permit check with your tax board and franchise tax. It's usually free. Well, I live in Quebec, But listen, folks, I am going to get my jammies on. Yeah. 5:00 in the afternoon. I'm getting my jammies on. And Howie and I are going to watch. Has anybody seen the series or been watching the series Evil on, I don't like the name of it, but I love the opening, how everything's in black and white. It's called Evil with the guy from I think he's unbreakable or something in the Marvel comics with Jessica Jones or something. Rolled ice cream. Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. But we've been watching this series called Evil, and it's all about this guy who's becoming a priest and a clinical psychologist, and then an eye tech guy who's just totally skeptic. He knows everything there is to do about deep faking and all this stuff. So he can, and they go and they have to disprove whether things are miracles or possessions or hauntings or anything like that. 9 times out of 10, they find a reason for it, right? But if somebody's watching that show, my great finds this weekend where I got a dehydrator with no trays for $5 and I have extra trays, so works for me. Awesome. And food grade buckets for $1 a piece. There you go. It's on Amazon Prime, but we're into, I believe we're still in season 1, but it's really good. I'm really enjoying it, but I don't trust the Monsignor. If anybody's seen that show, I don't trust the Monsignor because he's dismissing things that could be real, right? And their own, it's the Catholic Church, right? I mean, there's a lot of people who have faith in the Catholic Church. I know I was a confirmed Catholic when I became a confirmed Catholic when I was 26, but I've seen too much to know that God doesn't belong in a box. Our faith doesn't belong in a box because you limit it that way. But I saw the Monsignor and he was like, they got these 6 frames where there was like an angel. And he's like, oh, that's nothing. Just leave it. Now, I wanted to say this last week and I forgot. I forgot what I was trying to say about this show. And that science and faith are not opposite, but they're similar in the sense where God gave us both. And he gave us free will so that we could choose to believe or have faith, or we could choose to follow down the rabbit hole of science and see where that takes us, right? But the problem with science, okay, like, if you can't question science, then it's not real science. Just saying, COVID. But science doesn't record one-offs. They may be, seen on Twitter or YouTube or TikTok or whatever, but science works in a way that things have to repeat so that science can study them. So if someone's dead for 3 hours and then all of a sudden they wake up and the scientists can't figure out how it worked because it's never happened before, then they dismiss it as an anomaly. Science only works in repeatable things so that they can, oh, how did that happen? Well, let's wait for it to happen again and we'll study it. And then wait for it to happen again and we'll figure out what's triggering it. But for things that happen once, science dismisses them because they can't study them as a repeatable thing. Does that make sense? Yeah, well, I don't know about that, Linda, but I do know that man has no place in religion. Because once you have religion, it becomes corrupted in one form or another. I'm not saying the people who have faith in that religion become corrupted. Okay? But it's a big business. Faith at its simplest form, faith over fear, and a trust in a supreme being, the simplest form of faith for me is what works the best. And it ain't that simple, but it's just not organized into a religion. Oh, I got to tell you this. I'm a pastor. I'm a minister. Did you know that? Okay, I'm waiting for the shock to wear off. I've been a minister for 5 years of the Universal Church. I was looking into it, and it's one of those online things where you can actually perform marriages, you get the certificate and all that stuff. And I never like sent away for my certificate or anything. I got an email the other day. The Universal Church, the universal faith encompasses all faiths, right? And that was the closest thing to me. So I'm thinking I should send away for my certificate, because I've gotten to the point where spiritual matters are too unpredictably to be scientifically understood because the data cannot be gathered. Thank you, Laura. You said it properly for me. So I'm thinking, I'm thinking I'm gonna get my certificate, right? I'm gonna get my certificate. And I honestly feel that the way I share faith, the way I share my faith, and the way I encourage people to, break their faith down to the very most common denominator, which is the light of God's love, right? Then in my mind, I don't know what they do, but in my mind, I've gotten to the universal concept of faith. Now, I'm not saying I'm a minister. I'm saying that I've been given a certificate to say I am. But here's my thinking. What if I get that and Arthur and Mel want to get married? And I can do it for them. They just need the certificate. They just need the license, and I'll be able to perform the ceremony. Wouldn't that be a riot? It would be very, very simple. So, yeah, I'm thinking of doing that. I'm thinking of sending away for the marriage, the package so that I can do a marriage, and the package with my certificate. I'm not going to get vestments and all that stuff. That's just silly, isn't it? But anyway, this way, it's not a church or a religion. It's just us sharing the faith of the light of God's love. I think so too. I'm going to have to do some meditating on it, because there's a reason I left that go for 6 years, because I thought I was being really arrogant. Not 6 years, 5 years. But now it's the first time ever in 5 years that they've come back and said, hey, you want your certificate? Oh, how you been doing for 5 years as a minister of the Universal Church? I'm not going to call it a church. Could you do online marriages? No, because I would have to sign the certificate as having performed it. But I could bless an online marriage. Anybody can do that, right? I can bless it. So I'm going to do some meditating and some journaling on this, because it's been 5 years and the idea has not gone away. I have been reminded of it. And I think I'm in a place where, okay, wait a second. It's an honor when a couple of my friends ask me to perform their ceremony. There. Okay, so I'm apparently an ordained minister. I just need I need to pay for the shipping of the certificate and stuff. And I think I will buy. What if I got the marriage package and I gave it to Arthur and Mel for Christmas? What do you think? That would be pushing it, wouldn't it? But it'd be fun, wouldn't it? Right? Because then my grandbaby's going to be a year old. Okay, it's time. It's time, right? But anyway, I think I'm going to do it. But I've had to have these 5 years of growth. Remember I kept saying, yes, there's the 3 years or 3.5 years of the pandemic, but this growth period started like 5 years ago. And I never told anybody I did it. But I realize now that my connection with my faith is really, really strong. And people have said, that they come here for that, right? So that we can share our faith and stuff. So please, honestly, let me know what you think in the comments after this video closes, because this is really important to me. All right. I wanted to be a minister, but I couldn't wrap my head around being a minister of religion. I'm a minister of faith. Does that make sense? They must have reasons for not doing that. Well, the way they look at it, it's like, what's the point? It's been 10 years. It's like, the point is that you're making a commitment. And that's, you may say you're making a commitment, like Howie and I. Why bother getting married? We've been together 3 years. We're legally married in the eyes of the law. But my mother-in-law said, no, you need to get married. This needs to be official. And I said, why? And she said, so you'll remember it. You'll remember that you officially committed yourselves together for life. Oh, okay. Right? And she said, and I'm paying for the wedding. So, oh yeah, God, absolutely. But I mean, I'm going to ask them about that. And then maybe one day we can have a quiet ceremony. They just need to get the license, and we can have a quiet ceremony with their folks. Right? Or whatever. We'll do something really, really simple. Anyway, I have to go because I've gotta have something to eat. I haven't eaten today. I've only had tea. And I want to relax with my hubby because we've had a very, very busy, energetic weekend. So now is the time when we share some spiritual nourishment. Okay. So if you don't want to stay, there is absolutely no judgment. If you don't want to stay for the spiritual blessing, there is absolutely, no judgment whatsoever. It's just for us so that we can do some deep breathing and cleanse ourselves of, the stuff from the weekend or anything that may be bothering us, and that somewhere we drop the walls that religion has put between us, and we come together and we reach out our hearts and our hands across the world, and we meet where God's light and love joins us. Okay? All right. So for all those who care to, please help me close with some spiritual nourishment. Let's do some deep breathing. Breathe in light, love, and faith. Exhale fear, darkness, anxiety, and negative emotions. Push that out. Hey, God, creator and source of all. After, Gracie, after. Creator and source of all. We come to you today, God. I want to say thank you for giving us the energy that we needed to go visit our family yesterday and to get our work done today. God, thank you so much for that. Sorry, I had a fly, mosquito. Thank you, God, for giving us the strength to do what we needed to do. And thank you, God, for us to have this wonderful family and grandchild that we can go forward and love. And thank you for his giggles. It's the laughter of the angels. It really is. God, I want to thank you for all my friends and family across the internet and across the world. Those that come together, those that think of me, those that pray, the folks that pray for each other and think of each other. God, we just want, we want to walk forward in faith and love. So please fill us with the light of your love so that as it glows from us, it parts the darkness of everyday life, that we may go forward putting one foot in front of each other, sharing the light of your love with everyone around us. May we be the example of your love, God. There's a lot of folks there, God, that are having a really hard time, seeing their way through the darkness of everyday life, are exhausted from everyday life. People are addicted. Some people are sick. Some folks have family members that are sick. And our friend Joe Mama is in the hospital. She's having a problem with her bowel. We got friends everywhere that are just struggling to get the everyday things done in life. So God, we lift those people up to you. May the light of your love shine down on them. Give them peace. Give them strength. Give them the joy of knowing your love so that we can pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and keep moving forward. Amen to that. So God, as we close, hold us all in your loving embrace. We feel the warmth of your love, because we know, God, that you are all good all the time. Everything else is just 50 shades of gray heading towards black, right? So please, God, as we close, stay with us until we meet again. Amen. Shalom. Namaste. Peace be with you. Merry meet, merry part. Blessed be. Walk in the shining light of God's love. Miigwech. Whatever language you use to connect with your higher power, the God of your understanding. We all know that the language of love is always the best received. Take care. Bleach. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you guys Thursday night. Love you.